Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score, live from the RBC Canadian Open, Hamilton Golf and Country Club, the 13th hole, the rink hole. Our boy Charlie Hoffman just came by.
And the guy with the tight pony. And please don't come up to us and say rude things. Because a fan with the pony, he has been hammering pints since 8:30 a.m. And he said, Hazy B, I've been looking all day to try and find you, and I found you, and you chunked it right in the middle of the fairway. We don't want to hear those types of things.
No, I don't need to hear it. I lived it. I saw it. I did it. It was me. And the second shot was a good shot, but that's completely irrelevant. But, yeah, I saw that guy 5 hours ago nailing back beers, and he's still here.
He's having a good time.
He's having a great time.
He's allowed to have a
Someone's
good
picking
time.
him up when the sun goes down.
Yep.
Like, that guy doesn't work on time or what. He just, when the sun goes down, you come find me.
Yeah.
Those guys are old school, man. Not 6:15 at the spot. When the sun goes down, find me.
Find me, exactly.
Yes, because if you don't, I could be in trouble. Yeah, and that guy's pony is phenomenal. Charlie Hoffman looks great.
He gave us a little shout-out.
Yes.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, well, his caddy was chirping me. Like, I'm taking shrapnel here.
Yeah, you are.
Nonstop. I don't think that's Charlie's real caddy. It can't be.
It's one of his caddies. He's got a Canadian. I know him. Garrett, yeah.
All right. Well,
There
that's
you go.
Gave you a
unnecessary.
chirp. He said you look better in real life. I don't even know what that means.
I'm not sure either, but maybe that's a compliment.
It is a compliment. Sometimes there's camera angles.
Sometimes you see a celeb and you're like, is that because they look a little bit different in person?
I've always felt you see somebody on TV and then you meet them in real person, you're like, God, they're tiny.
Yeah.
Like,
no one's ever said that to me in the last 10 years.
It's coming, though,
But
man. A lot of people
coming.
saying it now.
A lot of people getting a buzz, but you can't tell how tall somebody is on TV when they're sitting behind a desk or whatever.
No.
So you walk up to somebody and you're like, hey, didn't realize they were taller, didn't realize they were shorter, they're thicker, they're thinner. Like it just, that's the one thing I've noticed when I've met people that either more famous or familiar. The Hollywood people all have big heads. I've always
Big
noticed,
heads.
tiny bodies and a giant head.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Maybe
big
it just
on the
picks
screen.
up nice on the screen.
Just big on the screen.
I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, Darren Dreger coming up here in a moment. Game 4. Everyone's conceding. It's a must-win for the Oilers. You got to get it tonight, and they're making lineup changes. But this happens, I'm sure, in every market. But it's more exposed. It's louder in Canadian markets. And right now, there are whipping boys in Edmonton, which is wild when you consider it's 2-1 in the conference final. Right? Like, they're not down 3-0 in the first round.
Right.
Where that, I understand. You're like, this is, what the hell are they doing here?
Yeah, but Hayes, the farther it goes along, everything's amped up, right?
Of course, and I understand that. But if they
expectation.
win tonight, then it will swing the other way, which
Yes.
is a part of the ride, which makes it thoroughly entertaining. I get the roller coaster. I understand it. But Darnell Nurse is in the firing line right now. Like, he's getting it from every possible angle. The fans not happy with him. The media's obviously talking about it, writing about it, whatever.
Yeah.
And he spoke to the media today, which I give him credit. I don't know what the obligations are, but he did step up. Maybe he has to. He does have an A on his jersey. He's a leader on the team.
You know what it is, Brian? And I'm sure you guys would both agree. It's especially in Canada, there's the attachment of the number, right?
Yeah, the salary
If he was
cap.
Darnell Nurse making 4.75, it would be like, hey, you got to play better, man. But when you put the 9 on it, because he signed with top 50 Doogie and Cale Makar, they were getting 9, and Darnell Nurse got 9. So when you attach the 9 to it, everyone's like, what are we doing here?
Well,
and they lose their mind.
That is a big part of it.
It is, man. It's a massive. If he was Darnell Nurse making 5.75, it would be, you just got to play better. You got to give us more.
And
now it's catastrophic.
He's a victim of that scenario, too. So he signed after he got 36 points in 56 games. And remember they lost to Winnipeg in the playoffs, and he was playing like 60 minutes a night because they were going into double overtime. He played like 60 minutes one night. And he was their number 1 defenseman. And if you look at it, Werenski, Seth Jones, and Darnell Nurse all signed pretty much the same contract, 9 sheets a year. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a bad number, but you can blame the marketplace at that time. Now what's happened for Nurse in Edmonton is, say what you want, Evan Bouchard's a number 1. Like, he's a number 1 defenseman in this league.
Yes, he's playing like it right now, and he has all year.
82 points this year, and he's got another 22 in the playoffs. The guy's had 104 points.
And I bet you, let me guess, his deal's coming up this summer.
Of course.
I think it's 2 years, isn't it?
But this is where, like, if you put the cap, there's no salary cap in the playoffs. This is where that's a good thing. That means you've drafted, developed, and helped. If Nurse is your third defenseman, which he is, because Zach Combs had him, that's a great situation. Like, you're not asking him to be Chris Pronger or Scott Niedermayer. You're asking him to be Nick Hjalmarsson.
Right.
Go be Nick Hjalmarsson.
Yeah.
Because Keith and Seabrook are playing.
Right.
You do that, you're all good. You're going to help us win. But he's not even bringing that to the table. No,
he's got to play better.
Forget the number. He's not even bringing that.
And that's really what's happened to him is he was on the power play. Now that's off. He's been pushed down. So he needs to play better, bottom line.
And he did media today. We'll play it a little bit later on. But it was curt.
Well, he was short.
It was short.
2-word answers, basically. Yeah. And was polite but not polite, if that makes sense.
And understanding, listen, the daggers are out. What's he going to say? Actions are going to speak louder than words. Joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey insider, Darren Dreger. How obviously we know it's a significant game for the team tonight, Dregs, but Darnell Nurse in particular, like, he's got to have his ace stuff tonight, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that was something. And I guess I can look at it from two different perspectives here. Obviously, Darnell Nurse did not want to do media today. That was pretty evident in how brief he was in his answers. He took, 4 or 5 questions and then exit stage left. Said thank you and left. And that was the extent of that. So if I look at it from the player and maybe even the coaching staff perspective, they want Darnell Nurse focused on tonight's game and skating the way he can skate, being as physical as he needs to be, and focused on the game. But, there is that professional side, and unfortunately for today's NHL player, that's part of your responsibility. That's part of the job, to go out there and talk about what your preparation is for tonight's pivotal game. I mean, he deals with it all year long. I don't know why today would be any different from Darnell's perspective. And furthermore, if he's worried about the sniping in local media, on social media, people are saying, what the fan base is saying, then he's not focused on what he should be. And that is being better and giving the Oilers better defense and a better chance of making the series a long one.
Darren, what do you think of him being a little bit snippy today? Is that like him being fiery and he wants to play well and play hard tonight, or is that a dig at the media? Just what did you make of that? You've been around a while and you've seen all kinds of different interviews and different perspectives from players. With that, what did you make of him, the way he kind of responded to the media today?
Well, my take home without being there is that he did not want to do media and was basically told, you're doing media. And so he, all right, I guess I'll have to do it. Someone, maybe media relations, told him that, okay, look, get ready because there could be some hardball questions coming your way just based on the tone of how, your game is being covered here, both locally and to some degree nationally. And maybe that was enough to set him off. But my take, and I'm not there, so I don't know the ins and outs of it. He didn't want to do it and was basically told, no, you've got to do it. The request is in, and that's part of what we have to do to comply this time of year. And keep in mind here, too, guys, like I may stand corrected after this. I'm almost positive when it gets to the Western Conference Final, the Eastern Conference Final, the league takes over. It's really no longer up to the club media personnel. It's basically up to the National Hockey League to manage the requests from the conference finals all the way through to the Stanley Cup final. So he just looked to me like a player who did not want to do media today and instead wanted to focus on, getting ready for the big game tonight.
Darren, we were talking about the heat that he's receiving. Do you think that, especially in Canada, that the attachment of the number has an important play with the fans and everybody's kind of viewing of his play? I just said it, if he was making $4 million, we'd be like, hey, can you give a little bit more? But you attach a 9 to it, and now everybody freaks out.
Yeah, that's a big part of it for sure. He's been a good defenseman historically for, the Edmonton Oilers. In a series like this, where you knew it was going to be tight, where defensively you knew you had to be locked down. There'd be a physical tone to it. You would think, for the most part, that would be in the wheelhouse of Darnell Nurse, and it really hasn't been. He hasn't had a very good playoff run here. I thought that, there's been periods, maybe give him the benefit of the doubt and say game here or there where it looked like he was stepping back, into a comfort zone, but that hasn't really been the case on a consistent basis. And I heard you guys talk about Evan Bouchard as we were coming into the segment, and maybe that's amplified the noise around Darnell Nurse as well, right? You've got Evan Bouchard, who's on a great contract. That's going to change after next season. I mean, the points that this guy's putting up, he is going to get paid. There's no question about that. But in the here and now, less than $4 million this year and next year, comparatively speaking, it's not even fair to call him a bargain in comparison with Darnell Nurse. So I do think that that's a big part of it for sure.
Dregs, it looks like Chris Knobloch's making a few tweaks or a few changes.
Yeah.
Broberg's coming in, Perry's coming in, and McLeod comes back in. What do you make of that? And do you think that, adds to, I think where Edmonton's at as far as their psyche, knowing that this is an important game and you're trying to press buttons?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. And Knobloch has proven here that he's not afraid, is he, to make a tough call, be it in goal or, in game, some of the adjustments that we've seen. And in this case, you're making wholesale changes here. I'm not surprised to see Corey Perry come into this series. I think, guys, we've talked about this. One thing that Corey Perry lacks is pace and keeping up with the pace. All right, well, there's probably not a whole lot he can do to change that. But he can apply the forecheck, and get there in time. He can do what he does in front of Jay Ottinger, and that's an element that the Edmonton Oilers need. I don't doubt for a second that Paul Coffey's fingerprints are all over the changes that are being made in defense. And I'm not here to judge or second-guess Paul Coffey's decision-making, but I wonder about bringing Philip Broberg into this series or into the playoffs. I mean, that's a lot to ask, isn't it, from a guy with no experience when it comes to, the NHL postseason. You're basically needing him to be as close to flawless as he can be. And who knows? Maybe, he's ready. Maybe he's ready. He had a good year in the America. He had a good year. Not that far removed from being disgruntled, right? I mean, how many times, at least early in the year, going into last season, we talked about the idea of Philip Broberg being on the trade block. So he's getting a heck of an opportunity here. I'm a bit surprised to see him go in, again, given the lack of experience overall.
With Darren Dreger, our TSN hockey insider. In the East, the Panthers end up winning last night in overtime. Now that's the best 2 out of 3, but it's Sam Reinhart who gets the winner. Guy's had a magical season. It's continued into the playoffs. He is a UFA after this season. What is your read on the Reinhart situation in terms of, contractual status, in terms of staying in Florida, hitting the market? How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I can tell you Billy Zito, the general manager of the Panthers, is going to give it his all to try and keep Reinhart with the Panthers. He's earned the right to free agency, and he is, if he went to open market, he'd make a big number because he deserves to make that number based on how good a fit he's been, the numbers that he posted with the Florida Panthers. But look, I do think that there is a strong will from both sides to get something done. Reinhart knows that he's a good fit with the Florida Panthers. He likes playing with for Paul Maurice. He likes the dynamic of what they've got in that dressing room. The salary cap is going up, but there are other question marks around that organization that Billy Zito is going to have to address as well. He might leave a little bit of money on the table comparatively speaking. So I'm hesitant to throw out the numbers and what that number looks like because you talked about a top-level player here. So what does the number look like to stay in Florida? Well, it would be less, considerably perhaps, than what he'd get on the open market. But it just feels like he's got a deep appreciation for that he has, the lifestyle, everything that he has with the Florida Panthers. And I know that they want to try hard to keep him long-term.
Darren, my old coach, Mo, he's the Conn Smythe of the media conferences, isn't he? He's got those people just loving every second of those pressers, doesn't he?
It's outstanding. You know what? It's genuine, but
it is.
There's a part of play in this too, right? I've had lots of conversations with Paul Maurice about his fit with Florida, and he's not going to acknowledge the negative side. Every coach deals with negative. I don't care what market that you're coaching in, but everything about Florida he loves. He can get away from the rink. He can walk down the street. He can get in his fishing boat, during whatever downtime you might have in the regular season. There's zero downtime now in the playoffs, but certainly in the off season. And he can do what he wants to do away from the rink, and likewise for the rest of his family. I don't think that he's ever been happier coaching in the National Hockey League than he is right now, and as happy as he's been since being hired by the Florida Panthers. And I think that that's just, maybe that's how he relieves a little bit of the pressure too, is with humor and having some fun with the media rather than jousting or creating controversy or a headline or story that's just unnecessary in the conference final.
Yeah, I mean, both your old guys, right? Lavi's right in there. You got Laviolette. You got Paul Maurice. I mean, both guys obviously did a great job in Carolina, and here we go.
Different coaching styles, too. Lavi's a little bit more intense, isn't he? Like seems like he's a screamer. But
it's just interesting that they've been lifers, and jumped around the league, yet they're still standing and they're not going anywhere. Like one of these two guys is going to be out in the next 4 or 5 days. Yeah. Yet they're both returning next year. Like with all the turnover in behind the bench, and there's always new blood and new guy. Obviously, you look out, out west. Knobloch's a guy that doesn't have NHL experience.
Yeah. What was your confirm or deny yesterday? Berube and somebody else.
Berube and Keefe.
Berube and Keefe, Dregs, in 2 years will still be the head coaches of their respective teams. I found it tough to answer because I'm like, there's just no way the way things go nowadays.
Yeah, that's a tough one to guarantee. And not to wish ill will on anything related to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I just feel like given the window here for Craig Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs, if they don't get something done in short order next year or the year after, all bets are off. As ridiculous as that sounds. And I'll tell you why I feel like that. Because, look, if something disastrous happens next year, then legitimately you're talking about Shanahan and what becomes of him. Keith Belly isn't the head of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment because this guy needs to cash checks. He took that job because he wants to win. He wants to win with the Maple Leafs. He wants to win with every entity owned by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment to solidify his legacy. So Sheldon Keefe might have a bit more runway in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Berube, Tree Living, Shanahan is the outlier because he's been here so long. Yet Fitzgerald's been down in New Jersey now for a few years anyway, running the show. And I can't speak to their ownership and how they operate down in Jersey.
They had that 1 year where they won like 21, the first 19 or 21, and then it was like these guys are going to be legit for years, and they took a step back last year. They have no goalies.
The Leafs ended their streak. Didn't they have 14 or 15 in a row, and then the Leafs played them in New Jersey and beat them 3-2. And Matt Murray had 3 called back goals. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah. You're right. We might have been working. We were.
I don't know.
I remember that.
I just remember the puck would go in the net, and it's like Matt Murray got bumped, fell down behind the net. Like,
you're right.
Matt Murray was on the roster still.
That was last year. That was a year and a half ago that was going on.
Yep.
And Fitzy has a contract extension too, right? He just agreed to that. About midpoint of this season. Not that matters in the grand scheme of things.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Yeah, there you go. A little jab. Berube, I don't know if Keefe, I wouldn't define him as a shelf life guy. Berube feels like he's a shelf life guy. I don't know if that's
what do you mean by shelf life guy? Like they got there 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, like Daryl Sutter and Torts. It's like you come in for a few years, you push buttons.
I think they're all like that.
But that's what I was getting to. Like, aren't they all the same? Like
the nicest guy in the world. Like Lindy Ruff was like, my approach now is to get to know the players and be more communicating. See you later.
See you later. Thanks
See
for
you
coming
later.
on.
But Lindy's a lifer. John Cooper, I think, writes his own ticket. Like when you're known as elite. John Cooper's elite. Like I loved. It was a couple years ago. I don't know if you remember this, Dregs. Tampa had a rough start, and people were asking Julie and Brisebois, like, is Coop on the hot seat here? And he said, if I fire Coop, I'm looking for the next John Cooper. Like, why would I want the next John Cooper? Now, at some point, eventually good things end, right? Like if they go into a rebuild, if Coop decides to move on, or if things just go south and you need a new voice. But when you're known as that good, those guys, they write their own tickets.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, they're, we call them closers, right?
Yeah.
Use the baseball term. And John Cooper's certainly that. Rod Brindamore would be in that category. I put Craig Berube in that grouping. Peter Laviolette. Joel Quenneville, if the league ever lets him off the mat, he still wants to coach. He's in that grouping. Some wonder, specific to Cooper, he's coached a lot, right? And it's a hard job. Is it in his DNA? Is that what gets him going when he gets up in the morning? Or is it just being around a team and just being good at it? And is he ready for a change when his time is up with Tampa Bay? And could he move higher up, not into management, but maybe not as a general manager, but maybe into a different office in Tampa Bay or with the club? And anything is possible with him because, again, to use your term, Noodles, he'll write his ticket wherever he wants to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Barry Trotz move, right? Barry said, screw it, I'm not coaching anymore.
Well, I thought I read today that Mitch Korn joined him, so I don't know if you know who Mitch Korn is.
That's goalie coach,
Yeah, he's the Yoda of goalie coaches.
He's in Nashville?
Well, he's gone to join Trotz back in Nashville. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because he was with
the
Islanders.
Yeah, I read that today, so that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Askarov or whatever his name is. Saros still going to be there, Drake? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, that's a spicy one because last off season they were talking about Nashville. That is talking about putting a Saros statue outside the building because they believe that that's how important he is and was to the Preds. And now you've got this up and comer who's lights out good, and Barry Trotz is potentially taking calls on UC Saros. So,
okay. I like it. All right, let's get to the draft here. Come on, we need to get rumors going. We need trades that are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Trades, action that's going to take place. All right, Dregs, good stuff, buddy. We'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
All right, guys, take care.
Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, and Grand Highlander, in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. All right. Role play level of concern coming up. We got a few different roles we're going to play here.
I know. I know what it starts with. I get a stupid one.
No. Yesterday was.
No.
He's complaining about yesterday's questions. That's what it was.
Which
we
one?
Had to change.
There was a couple.
Confirm or deny?
No,
we had a couple.
But then we disagreed.
He changed his tune on them. That's what we had to change.
There was one where you did.
It was a Stuart Skinner question. That's what we changed it on.
Okay.
But outside, I've always loved them.
Listen, we're trying here. That's all you can do,
I love
right?
the questions.
It's about
He's
effort.
the one that said on this, I'm so unhappy about these bits that we do. I love it.
I've never said that. I love them, and I actually think yesterday he challenged the question. That was the first time.
I might have switched one around a little bit.
Okay.
That's what happened.
It's all good. We're fine. We'll figure this out.
But I know that I usually lead this segment off, and I'm going to be coming in hot with my answer.
Okay.
I'm fired up.
Role play level of concern coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer is always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. Role play level of concern. Roles are played, scenarios are addressed, and we concern how we concern, right? Pine on the patio, no concern. Nick Cage leaving Las Vegas, nuclear levels of concern.
Wade Boggs at a Tampa Bay Lightning game's an option. That's 38-pack on ice underneath the seat.
Also, we're in Hamilton.
I was just going to say.
Rick Bushwood.
What's he? He's above.
6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love him.
He's above the
Cowboys.
six-pack.
I'll guarantee you he's here right now bothering people.
You think so?
He's 100% here. He has to be here.
Bothering people.
Yeah.
But having a great time. We love Rick Bushwood.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, you're playing the role of Darnell Nurse. Darnell Nurse, what is your level of concern if you don't turn this around? You're going to get Larry Murphy'd out of Edmonton.
Larry Murphy'd out of Edmonton.
You're going to get the Larry Murphy treatment anyway.
I'm
Maybe not out of Edmonton, but the Larry Murphy.
I'm a pint on the patio. I'm not going to lie. This is something I'm not totally, completely discarding because people seem to have a hate on right now because it's only because of my salary. The bottom line is, though, I'm a competitor. I play tough, I compete, and I'm going to show up and play tonight, and I will be our best D-man tonight because that's how I respond and that's how I compete. And I'm not worrying about this dragging out any longer than it is. It's come to the attention of everybody, especially myself, because I have high demands on myself. I'm not worried about it, and I'm responsible for myself, the most important thing, and I will turn this around. I'm not going to fade away into the sunset and say, oh, look at me, everyone is blaming me. Everyone should feel sorry for me. I'm going to be better. I'm going to turn it around. It's a pint on the patio.
Okay, I like that. That's a lot of confidence.
I like the positive attitude, but I'm more concerned.
I would be more concerned.
I'm a six-pack plus a couple shots of
I'd
Sambuca.
be concerned, man. It's loud in Edmonton right now.
Here's
him.
the thing,
I don't
too.
check the Edmonton news.
I understand that, and you're right. He plays tough, which people love.
Competitive.
But
Competitive, tough, get in a fight, throw some hits.
But when
blue
you're
collar.
talking playing better, competitive don't matter.
But here's
like you
what
can
it
go
is.
into the corner with intentions of being competitive. You get beat to the front of the net. It doesn't matter.
Here's what it is. He has 6 years left at $9 million. They're going to have to give Bouchard
more than that.
Yeah, that or more. Okay. So what's going to happen is, regardless, it's regardless of how good you play, there's going to be it might come down to the calculator, and he's a guy that, yes, if he dominates tonight and even plays well and leads them into the finals or whatever, you name it, to a Stanley Cup, there's still going to be a time where it's like that contract is tough, especially
and
if you are a
Canadian
number
fan
3.
bases, man. Once you go down a certain path, you can go up a bit, and then if it goes down again, they're going to be like, "There he is again."
Exactly. That's where I'm going, because Darnell Nurse is a guy that, when he signed that contract, he played 60 minutes a night in those overtimes against Winnipeg. He had 36 points in 56 games. It was comparable to Werenski and Seth Jones, and so you're looking at it. But now what it is he could have a nice stretch. You have one bad game. People are like, see?
Yeah.
And you know
as much
what?
as I love Canadian hockey fans, they love hating on something. They do.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely.
But listen, we're guilty of it too. Stuart Skinner had played 3 really good games. Last game,
they want
lets
him
in
out
a
of
bad
the league.
goal. All of a sudden, it's like, Stuart Skinner. So what happens is, if once they get on you, it's tough to get out from underneath you. Underneath that, unless you have a breakthrough. He scores a game-winning goal. Something people will absolve you of it if you're a difference maker. He needs to be a difference maker. But I'm still six beers and 2 shots of vodka.
All right, Noodles, you're playing the role of Steven Stamkos. We've played this before,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
now we got a little bit of an update here. What's your level of concern with this Ryan McDonough trade? That means you have to take a massive discount to stay in Tampa.
You don't have to do anything, Brian.
Well, you don't.
If you want to stay in Tampa, you do.
Give me Rick Bushwood.
6 Busch Light, 6 Bud Light, and I love them, tall boys.
Because you're 34 years old, or going to be 34. I think he's playing as a 34-year-old next year. So what's the deal look like? 4 years? Do you get 4, 5 years, depending? Maybe if they want to get the number down, you give him that 6th year or something crazy to make him 40, and he stays in Tampa the whole time.
Jamie, I find it to be a complex situation because you can say, oh, you're older now, and we're going to give you this, and you can only take this or take it or leave it. But guess how many goals he got for them last year?
40.
40.
And he's their captain.
So if you want to play the game where you don't care if he walks away, there's 40 cookies walking out the door.
I understand
40
that.
of them.
I understand that, but they've won their cups. They've got everything they can out of him. He's not going to get better in 3 years.
What they're trying to do, I would believe, is they're trying to see if they can squeeze one more out of this group.
Get the band back where he was a part of it.
That's right.
Ago.
Like if you've got Vasilevsky and Hedman and Point and Kucherov and Stamkos,
Cirelli,
Sergachev. If you've got that, you've got to believe that they got to be thinking they can get one more. I do too. How could you not with that core group? But they've got to get some more around it. That's the problem. Because their depth gets exposed in the playoffs.
Well, that's the thing. You've got Hagel and Paul there. You hope that who's the
you
tough
got
guy?
Janot.
Tanner Janot. They gave up 7 draft picks for him or
Which
whatever,
is just-
but he wasn't healthy last year. If he gets
Wasn't
healthy,
2 years ago either.
yeah. But to me, that team needs. They brought Ryan McDonough back. They needed defensive depth. They missed Ryan McDonough. They really did because it was a huge cliff to drop off.
You could see Coop going to Brisebois saying, "Get me McDonough back." Because
I understand that, but again, this is where
it's about the money you're talking.
The money, but also I would be careful here because you can't go back to 2-3 years ago. Like
Right.
the best teams, and Brisebois is a really good GM. Tampa's very savvy. I'm a bit surprised that they actually think they can do that, as opposed to we got to find the next Ryan McDonough. Right, not the
Right.
McDonough, because the McDonough from 2-3 years ago, that guy's not around anymore either. Doesn't mean he's not effective and
it's
a good player.
what you know as opposed to what you don't know.
I understand that, and it worked for you, and I get it.
Right.
If you've won, you naturally would go back to the well. I understand it, but I don't think it's not about going backwards, right? Like it's you got to transition and find the next window.
Right.
Like you look at dynasties, you look at Golden State, what they've done recently. They had that one run where it was like, look what we are. Then they fell back a bit. They didn't go say, we got to go back and get KD. We got to go back and get. It's like, no, we got to bring in different players. Andrew Wiggins is here now. Jordan Poole's here now. Go out and win.
Yeah.
Look at New England. New England, they're not like, we got to bring Rodney Harrison out of retirement. No, we got to find the next one for the next wave. And I'm not sure it's going to work for Tampa because you can't go back to 2021.
No,
you're not going to do it.
But I think what they need to do, like, if you look at it, that core's not old though. Vasilevsky's 29. Sergachev's 25. I'm looking at it right now.
Don't you think the
Hedman,
next one in the
Stamkos,
National
Rotana's
Hockey
not.
League is different than the NFL? To if you're talking about the wide receiver position, it's difficult to just say in the NHL, well, bring that guy in here because it'll just fit. It just seems more difficult than hockey, Brian.
I think it's more difficult too. Like just looking at some of the ages, you're right. Like Hedman is 33. He'll play as a 34-year-old next year. McDonough's 34. Sergachev's 25. But I look at up front. The big question mark is Stamkos, because outside of that, the guys up front are pretty young. Like Kucherov just turned 30. Point's 28. Hagel's 25. Cirelli's 26.
That's what I'm
Paul's
saying.
29.
What I'm saying is get those are your guys now.
Right.
Like, I know it's ruthless, but Steven, thanks for everything. Ryan, thanks for everything. I don't know about Victor, thanks for everything. But you know what I'm saying? Like, instead of thinking, like, we got to get on the other side of that, I'd be thinking about the other way.
Okay.
How do you get the 22-year-old?
There's a lot more that goes into Stamkos as a
I know. He's the captain of the team, the face of the team.
Here's the other thing, though, that I'll point to, and actually it's right in front of our face, and we're going to watch them tonight. Ben and Sagan are not Ben and Sagan, Dallas Stars face of them. It's Johnston, it's Stankoven,
Right.
it's
Robertson.
Hins, it's Robertson. So that's maybe what you're expecting. Is if Steven Stamkos, he may not get 40, but he might be your third line
Yeah,
player.
but do you
by
think
the time
Brandon
this all
Hagel
comes
is good enough to be where Stamkos can sit back and say, Hagel, you do your thing? I don't think he's a good enough player.
Well, but furthermore, do you think Dallas would give these guys $9.5 million
No,
right now if
but
they were
that's-
free agents? No, they wouldn't.
No, but that's why I think it's very interesting on the Stamkos contract, because if he still wants to be there, he's going to have to take some sort of a discount or a haircut or whatever it's going to look to fit into the structure. Because you're right, 30, 40 goals go out the door, but also if you're trying to build that team, I think eventually, if they're going to get back to where they want to, Stamkos might not be that first line left winger.
No, he's more likely not going to be.
In the Jamie Benn situation. So
Right.
it'd be interesting to see financially
Yeah,
what they've
I guess,
planned on.
Again, my point is Sagan and Ben are still being paid huge money.
Yeah.
You can't get out from that. They like them. They want them as a part of the team. But if they were free agents this year
They wouldn't
in
be
Dallas, they
making
wouldn't say,
$9
here's
million.
your $9 million.
That's a
They'd
good
be like,
point.
we got to completely restructure what you're about.
Yeah.
And, Tampa's got the opportunity to structure here on the fly. We'll see
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
I'm playing the role of the Florida Panthers. What is my level of concern? Sam Reinhart is going to price himself right out of South Beach.
I'm telling you, it's zero.
It's not zero because he has leverage here.
Yes.
It's a 6-pack and a couple of shots, but I'm comfortable with whatever his decision's going to make. If I'm the Panthers right now, I understand what I have. I have weather. I have a tax system. I have a great facility. People buzz about this practice facility they built
right
down
Lauderdale,
there.
yeah.
I know Barkov's here. I know Kachuk's here. I know Bob's here. I know what we have. I know we're going to be good.
You'd be crazy to leave. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and look at the career you're having down here. We established you effectively. I mean, this was a second overall pick that had to get out of Buffalo, like a lot of other players had to get out of Buffalo. And now look what he's doing. If I'm Florida, I'm like, I'll pay you. I might give you what Kachuk is making right now, but I'm not giving you more. And I think he's still going to take.
But here's so I'm going to counter that just for the money. Say it's $9 million, $9.5 or whatever. On the open market, somebody goes, I'll give you 12. So on a 7-year deal, that's $2.5 million times 7.
Yeah, but he's got to factor in. He's got to factor in how. What's the 12 somewhere else going to look like as opposed to the 9 in Florida?
Could be Utah. Could be.
Yeah. No, but as opposed to the 9 in. Yeah, what is the tax situation as opposed to the 9 in Florida?
100%
because it might just wash out.
You're
and it's just like, why would I bother?
We did
and living down there, man. You're living in South Florida.
I remember we had it in.
Scary.
Alberta's got a great tax situation. I remember Mika Kiprasov's deal was coming up, and he was going to get something with a 7 in it. Because he was a Vezina finalist. He was that great. Calgary ended up signing him for 5.83. But when you did the numbers, 5.83 in Alberta was making the same as making 7.5 in LA. Because you got to pay for private schools for your kids, cost of living, taxes in LA, all of this type of stuff. So that's the advantage sometimes of looking at. So you're right. If
there's a huge benefit.
$9 million in Florida might be 11.5 somewhere else.
I'm Sam Reinhart. I'm looking at the situation. You just brought up the players around, the facility, living in South Florida. It would have to be some kind of jacked up lowball offer for me to say I'm going somewhere else. Because it's just too good.
Yeah, it's a good setup.
Like, let's make this work. Maybe I don't want to hit a home run, regardless of the season I had, because I want to continue to be good. Just pay me appropriately and let's move on.
I agree.
Yeah,
First call you make, call Jonathan Huberdeau. Ask him about the change.
10.5. Yeah.
Ask him about the money and the change and all that. Role play level of concern brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza. BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beer. Always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. Maybe a little role play level of concern after dark. Seeing a quote from Sheldon Keefe, courtesy of Kevin McGran, the Star. We'll tell you what he had to say. We had Sheldon on the other day.
Yeah.
Good conversation with Sheldon. We got Marty Turco coming up, Mackenzie Hughes coming up, and my partner Adam Hadwin from earlier today. Our pro in the Pro-Am. You guys can ask him. You can ask him how it started, how it looked. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. Marty Turco will join us in the next hour. We'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. We're live at the RBC Canadian Open here in Hamilton. Pro-Am today. Pro-Am's always a blast. 3rd year in a row I've done it. Been able to play with a number of Canadians in the past. And Nick Taylor was one of them a couple of years ago. We saw what happened with Nick last year. Played with Tommy Fleetwood last year as well. And Tommy was in a playoff. So I feel very good about the type of mojo I personally bring to whatever pro I happen to play with.
You help these guys prepare for
I'm trying to help them prepare. I'm trying to bring positive thoughts.
It must be cool for you, like, seeing both Nick and Tommy in the playoff. Like, you literally stood there 2 feet away and watched, like, the golf ball lead Tommy Fleetwood 7-iron.
It was unbelievable. And I got to see that with Adam Hadwin this morning, who is an awesome guy, unbelievable guy, big Canucks fan. Remember we chatted with Adam a couple of months ago when he was going to see a game in Arizona. And he joins us now. Here's Canadian pro Adam Hadwin. How you doing, Adam?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
We're doing well. Did you have, take us through your Pro-Am experience? I've been glowing for the last few hours. I love doing it. I thought you were awesome with everyone. You were
I want
to
know what you
us.
thought of this guy's golf swing. Can you please tell me? And just be honest, because I know it's not. You're not going to say it was awesome. Just what did you make? What does he need to improve on?
So I think my caddy summed it up best. We were watching one of the shots, and he goes, "That is a hockey player's golf swing right there."
Yeah.
It does not get more than it does not get above his shoulders, and he has the perfect abbreviated slap shot follow through. So, you know what though? It wasn't too bad. It was pretty good. He had some good looks out there. I believe up and down on the first couple holes. Yep. 2 good shots on on 3. We had a couple moments of mental lapses, but fun was had by all. So I don't. Listen, it's hard enough for us to hold concentration for 5 hours while playing golf, and we do it for a living. I don't expect guys who don't do it for a living to try and concentrate for that long. So.
It's a great point. And like one of the last shots you saw me take, I sculled one through the green on 9, and Adam goes, "You lifted your head." I'm like, I know. It was awful. It was horrendous.
They could say that probably 7 million times around to amateurs.
To amateurs all the time. And what I was in awe of, because you were obviously in great spirits. You were helping everyone out. When you're sitting there reading a putt and you're telling an amateur, like, this is what it does, and you watch them step up and do the complete opposite and just blow on 15 feet past or miss the break. Like, do you ever just look at them and say, are you listening? Like, what is happening here? Because you did the complete opposite of what I told you to do.
I typically try not to. Certainly there's been times in my head where I'm just, at a loss for words. But I only have 2.5 hours with you guys, and I don't really want your experience to be me ripping you apart for your putting stroke. So, if it does continue, if it's a trend for the 9 holes, I might start throwing in little jabs here and there to get you thinking about it. But for the most part, I'll do the respectful thing and say, "Man, that was a bad read on Caddy's part there. I should have given you the 15-foot." Pass line, not the dead weight line. So,
okay.
But no, all in good fun.
Adam, you talked about how long you guys spend out here. What is your stance on that? It seems like it's been discussed, the pace of play and how long it takes, 2 of you or 3 of you. I'm a fast golfer. I like to play early. I like to play fast. To be out there on that golf course for 5.5, 6 hours as a 2-ball or 3-ball, it seems to be insane. What could actually be done to fix it?
It's a good question. I do think that they could probably be a little bit more strict with pace of play. Early groups make sure that they're playing to an appropriate pace. I do think one of the troubles that we have, in this modern game is most par 5s are reachable in 2 for a lot of guys, and that leads to backups. The other thing that we struggle with is we just have so many guys on the golf course at one time. We have a 156-man field, I believe, this week, so 78 guys in each wave. There's 13 groups going off of the 1st and the 10th tee each wave. And so even if you play, let's say we play at a 2:15 pace, we're running into the first group runs into the last group like they're waiting for them on the 10th tee. And, as the round goes on, it just, that first group might play in 2:15, but that last group off a tee will probably be closer to 2:30. And so by the time you make the turn, it just kind of wears on. And I still think they could be a little bit more diligent about penalties and stuff. They're very player friendly, let's say. They don't want to give us penalties, and I understand it. It's like, a penalty could be the difference of a guy keeping his card and not keeping his card, which in the grand scheme of things maybe seems a little excessive for like a bad time or something like that. But, but I agree with you. 5 hours for threesomes is ridiculous. And I believe that we could probably get it down to 4.5 by being diligent and pushing players. But I don't see us playing much less than 4.5 as threesomes. The courses just get a lot of the course just too difficult. Fast greens, tough pins, and everything just once you get to this, everything is means so much. Those 3-footers sometimes can be the difference of making a cut or missing a cut. So.
Well, Adam, it was awesome meeting you today. Awesome playing with you. I know it's a busy time of year. It's a busy tournament. We appreciate you giving us 6-7 minutes of your time, and we're rooting for you. We're out here on the rink hole tomorrow, Friday, so we'll be seeing you as you come through, and we We can't wait to see what you bring to the table this weekend. Good luck.
Look forward to it, guys. Thanks so much.
You got it. There's Adam Hadwin. Good Canadian boy.
Acknowledged me yesterday. I had a tough day up here, and he gave me the hi, Jeff, and it meant a lot. Thank you, Adam.
There you go. Yeah, great guy, Adam
Great
Hadwin.
guy.
Yeah,
Canucks fan, too. We couldn't keep him that long, but
yeah. He was on to talk about me and me playing in the Pro-Am. So
hockey player swing.
Yeah.
I thought he would be a little bit more complimentary than that. I was a little bit taken back.
Listen, it's not great. I understand it's not great,
No,
but
but
the
you
job
know,
gets done.
Lefty, you're a better swing.
I am a better swinger. That's my natural swing. That's how I shoot in hockey. That's how I bat when I'm playing baseball. But, par of the first 5, 6 of the first 7. I'm 1 over on the 8T. That's pretty damn good golf. Yeah. Pretty damn good.
There you go. Feeling good about himself.
Yes. And I feel good about Adam Hadwin and my boy Zach Blair.
Love it.
Yeah, he's a Utah guy from Park City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, big Utah guy, BYU guy.
Did he say he's excited about the hockey team?
Yes, he did. I asked him that. In fact, I guess Ryan Smith was on McAfee today and said they've narrowed the Utah hockey name down to 4. Mammoth is one of them. Yeti is one of them.
That they're really high on.
They really like Mammoth.
And it's mine. I know that when I said that, it filtered out to the Utah
I
Mammoth.
Don't think so.
Yes. Utah Mammoth. Utah Yeti. I kind of like Yeti.
I like Yeti, too.
You could do a bunch of stuff with Yeti.
Yeah, Yeti works, too.
Yeah.
Final hour coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.